All right, welcome. Excuse me, y'all. It's your man Got a Dots, man. We're back, man, with a Freestyle Friday show. I said I was going to give the people something. I'm going to give y'all something. A little bit of housekeeping, maybe a little bit of a schedule change next week due to the NBA Finals not starting to June 6th, but we'll see if we can kind of fill in the gaps. There's plenty of stuff I can kind of talk over. We may do a little bit of NFL talk next week to kind of fill in as we kind of look forward to the NBA Finals, which starts, I want to say, on June 6th. So next week, we'll be doing that. How you doing, Miss Merv? How you doing, Dr. Nikki? Yes. Of course, I got the show in the other space. And I want to say this, particularly to Miss Merv. You kind of put a bug in my ear that's been kind of like, I'll explain it, in the other space. But yes, it was a lot to kind of think about. Had my mind racing there for a minute after the show because I went back and actually, looked at the chat and yeah, gave me some talking points. Yeah, might be some hurt feelings tonight. Y'all know me. I don't care. I don't care. Get a girl. What's going? Oh, happy Friday to you too. So before I kind of get into tonight's commentary, I'm going to play a short video for those who are not abreast of what's going on in regards to tonight's subject matter. Negro leagues have finally gotten their recognition in the MLB record books, and it has been a lot of fuss and a lot of commentary on it. I want to shout out the Gator Girl for kind of putting that bug in my ear because she was right on. Our in the chat correspondent that she is, but I'm gonna play a short video to kind of get everybody kind of up to date, and then link has been dropped, and we'll have a conversation. If not, then y'all know me. I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. No, you're not getting your feelings hurt, but it's a certain gentleman who got into his feelings over a comment I made, and yeah, you don't tell a lie about me, I won't tell the truth about you. You might see an email. But anyway, let me kind of get into the presentation real quick. Like I said, I'm gonna play a short video. Then we'll kind of come back and have commentary after the video plays. In the spirit of fair use. Here we go.
Perhaps more than any other major sport, baseball prides itself on its statistics. It's how the sport recognizes its all-time greats. Those stats are now changing in a big way. Major League Baseball announced today it will officially incorporate statistics from the Negro leagues into its record books. That means some of the greatest players from those leagues will now move into the top 10 ranks in the record books. The legendary hitter Josh Gibson, for example, will move to the top of several record lists. We're joined now by Gibson's great-grandson, Sean Gibson, as part of our ongoing coverage of Race Matters. Sean, welcome to the NewsHour. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So your great-grandfather, Josh Gibson, will now be recognized as having the highest season batting average, the highest career batting average in all of Major League Baseball. What's this moment like for you and for your family?
You know what? It's a great moment for our family. It's not just for our family, it's for all the Negro League family members as well, because this is not just about Josh Gibson. I mean, as you mentioned, Josh Gibson will be at several categories, ranked number one, some at 2 and some at 3. But for us, it's more exciting, too, to also see some of the other great Negro League baseball players we recognize as well. As you saw in the press release, over 2,300 African-American baseball players will now be included in the MLB record books. And so we're very excited to see Josh Gibson ranked at some of the top of all time in some of these statistics. And it's been a long time coming. This announcement was made back in 2020, almost 4 years ago. And here we are 4 years later, and the statistics is finally have came out, and we're very excited to see Josh ranked at some of those top categories.
This does now put him officially in MLB stats ahead of Ty Cobb's for his batting average, ahead of Babe Ruth's slugging percentage. These are the greats. These are names that even if you're not a baseball fan, you know when it comes to American baseball. So why hasn't the name Josh Gibson been part of that conversation before?
Well, I think because of the league that he played in, which is the Negro leagues. Some people try to discredit some of the records from the Negro leagues, but as I always say, is that you know Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige and other great African American players, they would have loved to play in the major leagues. Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the commissioner of Major League Baseball at the time, denied over 3,400 African American men the opportunity to play in the majors. And so when you look at Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell, Oscar Charleston, and Buck Leonard, and the rest of the New League baseball players, yes, they did not play in the majors, but they suited up just like their counterparts. They put their pants on, they put the jerseys on, and they put their cleats on. They went out there to play the game of baseball. But today marks a day in history.
Sean, I do want to put to you, because some people have criticized this decision by the MLB. They say it basically allows them to rewrite history. The sports journalist Howard Bryant said this: in addition to their exclusion from playing against their white peers, the totality of conditions stands as embarrassing testimony to what the major leagues forced black players to endure, and that cannot be erased with a procedural merger a century later. Sean, he's basically saying this allows them to kind of cleanse a racist past. Do you agree with that?
I love Howard. I know Howard very well, and that's his opinion. I respect his opinion. But with the way I look at it, and their other family members look at it, is that we understand that racism is going on today, still, and no matter what. And the one thing I don't want people to think is that this is something that Major League Baseball to basically just kind of appease the African American community and say, hey, let's do this to make a right or wrong. As I was saying before, these guys earned, that 466 batting average that Josh Gibson had in 1943. He earned that. He earned that. Satchel Paige, his strikeouts, he earned that. The on base percentage, Josh Gibson earned that. And so whether if it's something that Major League Baseball didn't acknowledge 100 years ago because they didn't play in the majors, no, I feel like these guys deserve to be recognized. Major League Baseball is making this decision because it's the right thing to do. And not only that, though, it is definitely a piece of our history. Even though these guys did not play in the major league, it's still a part of baseball history.
Sean, what else do you want us to know about your great-grandfather, both on the field or off the field? What kind of stories did you hear about him through your family that we should know about?
Well, the one thing I want people to know is that, just when you look at these statistics, and when you go to Google the top baseball player of all time, or the top home run leader, the top batting leader, and you'll start seeing different faces that you never saw before. Take the time and educate yourself on these players. Take the time and do some research on these players. These men played the game because they loved the game of baseball. They enjoyed the game of baseball.
That is Sean Gibson, great-grandson of the late, great Josh Gibson, joining us today. Sean, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, and have a great day.
All right, let me bring this back over here. Bring it back over here. So let's kind of talk about it. Let's kind of break this down. I had to do a little bit more research. Y'all know me. How you doing, Ms. VS? Well, welcome to the show. I wanted to get more clarity on how this decision came to be. I understand why it needed to be done, and it should have been done a long time ago. But I want to kind of take some time to kind of give you guys a little bit more background into this story. It really started back in 2020. It was reading an article here. It was a 15-person committee to help determine how to do it. Because Major League Baseball had made a decision back in 2020 to incorporate the stats from the Negro leagues into the record book. So I don't want people to think that this was something that was just done on a whim. This was something that was just done to, to appease the Black community, as some people kind of viewed it. And as I saw some of the commentary in regards to this, being that baseball was just trying to, do this to remove the stain of racism, the stench of racism from the sport. So like I said, I wanted to give its due diligence in researching it. But the issues that have long, and if those of you who are familiar with the Negro Leagues, know the history of it. I'm not going to go too far into that, but with Major League Baseball, when they decided to do this, the issue that always kind of came up when we're talking about some of the stories and some of the games and the stats that you would hear about from players from the Negro Leagues was, the opponents, as Gator Girl likes to call them, the Sun Dodgers. I like that one. I like that one. The Sun Dodgers was that the records weren't properly kept. They wasn't sure how accurate the records was, and that was always the argument when you got to discuss about the feats and accomplishments of players such as Josh Gibson, such as the Bucklander, such as the Satchel Paige, was that how credible was those records, and that was kind of the argument when you would discuss at the time, regular Major League Baseball history, matching it up against what was done in the Negro Leagues, and how great of a player was Josh Gibson. And that was always the argument from the Sun Dodgers, was that there's no way to truly know, because like I said, the argument was, how the stats wasn't comprehensive, but how good was the record keeping. Yes, Ms. Vest, it took them 4 years. 4 years ago, they made a decision to incorporate it. Like I said, it wasn't something that was done on a whim. It was something that they had to do a lot of research into it. Hired a lot of data research groups to do it, and trying to get together. It was like newspaper articles was was put together. It was a lot of work. Through newspaper scorebooks, microfiche film, which I find to be interesting in itself. And they took this time to gather. And here's the thing. They haven't really gathered all of the stats. This is just they've only been able to certifiably verify only 75% of the stats from the actual Negro League. And mind you, this has been a 4-year process. Like I said, Major League Baseball has hired research groups to gather the stats, verify the stats as best they can. Like I said, that was always the argument from the Sun Dodgers, was like, how comprehensive was the stat collecting at the time, and how authentic was those stats? Because you would hear the story about Satchel Paige, no hitter after no hitter after no hitter, after no hitter. But their argument was always, well, we don't know how true that is. How true it is, and it's very interesting. The baseball took this approach, and I understand the pushback and outrage from Sun Dodgers, because baseball, and I talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday, baseball is one of those sports and that they hold dear, and they cherish to the moon and back. And anybody that for no other American sport, when we're talking about football, they could care less about who has what records, who has the most yards, who has the most touchdowns, because they understand that the NFL is dominated by the African American player, by Black players. They understand that with the NBA, so it's not that much of a fuss when their favorite Sun Dodger is replaced in the record books by one of us. Excuse me, y'all. I got a lot going on in my head. But but baseball is always been, kind of like, they've always felt like it was their sport. And and it's that sentiment and that view of their sport is why they hold such records dearly. You look at the treatment and death threats and stuff that was going on with Hank Aaron when he was chasing the home run record at the time. Skip some years further, when you saw Barry Bonds going after the single season home run record, when he was going after the all-time home run record, how they viewed him. He didn't get the same love and admiration that, let's say, Mark McGwire did during that same period of time, with the same allegations placed upon them. He wasn't looked at in the same light. And we all kind of know we all kind of know why. But baseball, like I said, baseball is the one sport. I'll say a little bit a tier lower than that is golf, where they feel like they um own that. Like, hey, this is like, you guys can have all the other sports and you can have the track and fields and you can have all of that, but baseball is our thing. And it's even kind of trickled down more so, even off the field. When you look at the sharp decrease in black players that are currently playing in the major leagues, you either have a lot of Sun Dodgers or you have guys that are coming from I wouldn't call them third world countries, I would say Central American countries. When we're talking about Venezuela, Cuba, that kind of stuff. But the love of baseball in the black community, and I can say this as as a father of a child, it's just it was never appealing to me to impress that on little man, because I was like, one, baseball to me is not exciting to watch. It is a very cerebral game, but it's not very exciting to watch. And anybody that's ever been to a baseball game can understand what I'm talking about. It moves at a slower pace. It's way more methodical, and it just doesn't appeal to people like such as myself, who are used to much faster pace, much more physically engaging type sports than baseball. I'm just sorry. I'm a more of a football and basketball fan. I have no gripes about it. I know enough about baseball to where I can sit and watch a game and know what's going on intelligently. But you're right, Gator Girl. Baseball is too long. Baseball is too long. They've made efforts over the years to speed up the game, but I think baseball is looking at and I think for me it's kind of like a double entendre. Like, yes, you want to give credit to the Negro leagues for the accomplishments that they earned on the field of play, playing the same game. But I look at this as kind of a double entendre. I think this is a way to drum up, interest more so in the black community, because it has gone down in the black community. I, spoke to, an elder of mine earlier today, and it was asking them like, hey, how was baseball viewed during your time? In baseball, he told me, he said baseball is pretty much on the same level of interest in our community, where you had kids that played baseball, played football, and I would say basketball was kind of a third, kind of like, and not necessarily a distant third, but it was third. You had football and you had baseball. Baseball has always been looked at, when you think about the tapestry of America, that American pie, that dream. Baseball is what they kind of hold on to and clench for dear life. Oh, hold on, gotta guess, hold on, y'all. Yeah, I guess this is, I'm a little rusty. Welcome to the show.
You ain't rusty.
I'm out of shape, man. I don't do shows like and typically over here, it's on this certain shows that people come up for the panel, like, y'all just like to sit back and let me get into my commentary, and I appreciate it. But hey, but anyway, how are you doing?
I am well. You haven't been doing Freestyle Friday. All you had to do was tell me not to come up on your panel. Like, if I'm a panel killer, let me know.
No, you've been here from day one. When I do a Freestyle Friday, I try to incorporate the social and the sports with it. And if I can't find something like that, I was like, yo, whatever. But shout out to Gator Girl for bringing this, because it brings up a whole different discussion. It's more than just them adding the stats.
No, you was just trying to stop me from shining, and I like baseball, so stop. Y'all, he don't want to give me my little corner on his little corporate space. That's all. That's all good.
Come on, you trying to get out of the cubicle now? Come on now, come on.
Listen, baseball is huge in my family. Most of the people, yes. With my husband and as well as my dad. So when my dad was in high school, that was, back during segregation, and just a little bit of my own little Black history pat on the back. My mother was the first JV cheerleader, and her sister that was 2 years older than her was the first varsity cheerleader at their school in North Carolina.
Oh wow.
And so, my dad played football and baseball. And because my dad was a lefty, I kind of already knew because there's certain, positions that or places, I guess it would be positions that baseball players play, when they're not, I guess, up to bat. When you're a lefty, and that's first base, just because, of that, being their dominant hand or what have you. So my dad played first base, and he was also, I think he said he was a quarterback. I can't quite remember, but my husband played in the World Series as a youth. Now their team lost, but as a youth played in the World Series. So like he grew up playing baseball, and as a football player, he was also a quarterback because in baseball he was a pitcher and an outfielder. So, that arm was something. And I will also say this too. In the NFL, although we're not talking about them right now, but it's important to know that you got your football players who are quarterbacks like Mahomes. He was a baseball player, and that's why his throw was a little, awkward and wonky when he releases, because he's still releasing that football almost like he does when he's pitching. So, like, we love the sport. Like, there's a certain noise that the bat makes when it's out of there. It's a certain little ping, and it's like we know as soon as the ball hits the base, ball bat, that it's out of here. So it's a wonderful sport. So for those who don't like it and don't have the patience, man, go to a game and just try it. Like my husband even coached the 10 and 12-year-olds, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, all of that. We were serious about that sport.
Yeah. And for me, like I can sit through a baseball game. Listen, I can sit through it and understand what's going on and dynamics and the schemes and coaching, all adjustments. I get all of that. But I can understand why the game is not that interesting to people in the Black community like it used to be. You just don't see a lot of us on the TV, and I think that kind of plays into it when you watch a baseball game. It's a lot of and what's going on, Mark? As Gator girls like to call them, I love this, the Sun Dodgers. It's a lot of them, and for me, I can't. I can watch a game and I don't know, what, unless it's scrolling across the screen or something like that. I can't tell you what their batting average is. I can't tell you who half these guys are because I don't follow it, because it's not, for me, it's not enough of us for me to even really be engaged with it. It's kind of like with golf, where when Tiger fell off, a lot of fans, black people fell off with him. Like, okay, he's not, that good anymore. It's not that interested. And, I choose not to watch. Now, I think, a lot of black people play golf. A lot of my family members play golf.
Same here.
But as far as like, when we're talking about sitting down and spending time watching it, nah, like I know Tiger. I couldn't tell you anybody else that's playing. But like I said, I can understand why they're upset, because baseball is for me the one sport where they hold those records sacred.
Right, but if I could digress just a little bit more when talking about baseball, it's funny because it seems to now, although it's nowhere near where it should be, but there's a little bit more equity as far as you finding a black coach or manager in the Major League Baseball than you do in football.
Yes, you do.
And we're talking about winning coaches, like serious stuff. So it's interesting because and this was kind of like this with boxing for a long time. It seems like, you have more Latinos who are, more dominant in that particular sport because they're playing it from the time. It's like all the children play it. It's not basketball. They're out there playing baseball and their version of football, which is soccer. So, I understand, I definitely understand it. But it's like, if you really take the time to look, you see it's a lot of things going. They're a lot more progressive. Although they still got a long way to go. I'm just so happy about this, got to clean it up. I'm so happy that they got to get that broom out and move some stuff around in that museum and all kind of stuff, because, it's like, white folks don't dominate, and you can't dominate everything or change the history so that because y'all all agree on it, then that's what it is because of the records you say you can't find when y'all house everything. I bet if they go to the Mormon church, they'll find all the Negro League records.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree. I agree, and come to think about it, they've only got 75% of the stats, added to the record book. So you talking about a whole another 25% that's somewhere out there floating.
That's gonna make them sick every time somebody produces something.
Yeah.
But go ask the Mormon church. They got all the slave records, so I'm sure they got the Negro League records too. They got all our DNA, the ancestry DNA, all that stuff is run by the Mormon church. So everything black, go ask them. They got it.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm not surprised by the reaction of those hardline baseball Sun Dodger fans, because like I said, this sport, more like football, records come and go. They could care less if a black quarterback gets Tom Brady's record. They could care less. But baseball, for them, when they say the names of a Babe Ruth, a Ty Cobb, they hold them in such high regard. And them and their records. For them, I think I said that sport is unique in that way, where they respect records like that. And it outside of them, taking kind of outside of sports with this, you kind of see that when we're talking about their music. Like they hold their rock and roll legends and stuff in higher regard than us. Like Rolling Stones is how old? Have been touring how long?
God, older than the Grateful Dead.
But you won't never see them disrespect them. They will still sell out stadiums after the stadium. After the stadium is they have a different kind of respect for certain things.
Right, but who's regarded as a queen of rock and roll?
I don't know.
Tina Turner.
Okay, well, okay, I get Tina Turner, queen of rock and roll.
But I'm saying it's a black woman. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, although they try to they still have to, it's. I'm just excited. So excuse my excitedness. Like I can't. I am overjoyed because historically, what they also have to acknowledge is that if that's supposed to be America's sport, what was created in America?
Mm-hmm.
The Negro.
Yeah. I mean,
so they don't like that. It's like, and I love it. Like anytime you make Whitey upset, I'm good. Like go shake his ass up. You know what I'm saying? Like go shake him up. Tell him get the. You know what I'm saying? Like go get him. Shake him up. Tell him no. We run this too. How about that?
They're 38. Listen, they are 38 hot about this. And once again, shout out to Gator Girl for bringing it to my attention, because it hadn't hit my my stream, my stuff yet. So
because you're too busy looking at basketball. That's why.
Well, my timeline is basketball, football, and Cowboys football in particular. So yeah, I keep up with what's going on with my team in those particular sports. So like baseball, for me, baseball is kind of like on the peripheral. Like I get it. Yeah, I don't even watch baseball throughout the year. Like if I catch a game, I catch a game, but it's not like, oh, it's this must see TV 3-game series between the Dodgers and the Padres. Like, ooh, like I'm not locked in like that. One, I don't care about the teams like that, but then again, I'm not that big a fan of the sport like that, where I would want to sit and have a season pass to MLB. Like, nah, that's more of their thing.
And I feel the same about basketball, because again, which makes me a little hypocritical, because my critique of the NBA is there's too many games. Well, it's just as many games in baseball.
Baseball for me,
it's just as many games.
See, with basketball, here's the thing with basketball, I had to kind of I have to pace myself. Like I know, okay, I watch the Christmas games. I keep tabs on what's going on, but watch the Christmas games. Around the All-Star break, I start ramping up my viewership of the NBA. And then of course, playoffs all day long. Baseball to me is 162 games. That's just regular season, people.
Yep.
Regular season, like I don't even know if people know when the baseball season really starts. Like I think
it never stops.
It doesn't seem like it stops. Like it wraps up around October. Then you have the winter meetings and spring train. It's like it's constant for me, but I think this may create. I think this is what baseball unintentionally was shooting for. Was it was
Mm-hmm.
going to create interest back in the Black community to say, hey, you're we respect your history, we respect what you guys contributed to the game, coming back, because that has been part of a real big part of the conversation when we talk about Major League Baseball is the decline of Black players in the game. And I think this is unintentionally a way for them to kind of bring it back to the attention of the masses, and hopefully scoop up that audience, and get young Black boys back to playing the game of baseball. Because for me it's been basketball and football. I don't see a lot of kids, Black kids anyway, gravitating towards baseball for whatever reason. And I think it's one of the reasons I think that is because baseball is a different kind of a game where your physical attributes can only carry you so far.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that the other games are not cerebral, but if I'm 6'6" and can jump, somebody's going to pick me up on their team. I'm gonna get a scholarship somewhere if all I do is dunk. But with baseball, it's more of a cerebral type game. Your hand-eye coordination got to be on point. Understanding the shifts, and like it's a much more cerebral game. Like they don't care how big you are, how strong you are. Can you hit the ball? Can you feel like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a little bit more skill based than the other two sports, and I think that discourages young people in general, but Black players, like, why am I doing this when I can be a point guard and I can just be shooting like Steph Curry? Why am I out here practicing this swing and I'm batting 280, which ain't bad, but it ain't what you expecting as a young person picking up the game of baseball. You expecting to be dominant because I'm bigger and I'm stronger and faster than my opponent, but your hand-eye coordination ain't got nothing to do with the physical. I'm just
Because they're
saying.
not telling them about the fact that it was no cap in baseball. So again, it's like once you start dissecting the game, and I'm not talking about it on a Dr. Francis, Cress Wilson's, level of the ball being the white man, all this. And I'm not talking about that level. I'm talking about where you start talking about the money, where the money goes, and how much money. Like they're not sharing that with like the Black youth, which and then two, you have longevity in baseball. Like you could play a lot longer in baseball than football and basketball. So it's definitely a plan. But what I wanted to say about the youth or Black youth being in these baseball programs, going back to the number of games. There were times where my husband and I would be out there with the kids, and we would just tell the parents, look, just go on home. We'll bring them home when we finish with them, because those tournaments, those AAU tournaments would be all day long. You might play 6 games in one day. So, it's a lot of games and it's a lot of travel in that. And some people just don't have that type of time and money that, to put in and follow that all the way through. But I tell you what, that's where the money is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely. I mean, in the long game, the long money is in baseball. But it ain't really discussed in our community like that, because we want our kids to be the next Mike Vick, Patrick Mahomes, but you might want to be the next Robert Acuna. Like what's it? Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid $1 million a year from the New York Mets, and ain't played in God knows how long. But that's just how his contract. It's got to spread out. Like he gets $1 million every single year. I want to say it's about 2038.
Not too many Deion Sanders who, play both sports. I mean, just amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You had the Bo Jacksons. But it's just not, for me, watching it, from with the young men, that it ain't popping. It ain't it ain't the thing to do. It ain't sexy. It ain't glamorous. Like you ain't seeing baseball players in commercials. Like it's just not, it doesn't really appeal.
They don't need it. Look at all the money they make it. They don't even need it. They don't need it. They don't need that money. They don't even need it. The money is ridiculous. that some of these 17, 18-year-olds are making straight out of high school. It's ridiculous.
It is, and I would address Gator Girl. I'm gonna address your question. Does this diminish or erase the uniqueness of the Negro League? Negro League stats becoming Major League Baseball stats positions the Negro League history where now. I don't, I don't think it diminishes it, but I think for me, I kind of look at the other way. To your devil's advocate, I look at it enhances the interest of people finding out about what the Negro League was about, and I would say Major League Baseball has been slowly, and you know how they move slowly, making inroads to really acknowledge the Negro leagues, to really incorporate them into the culture, even the current culture. Like I talked about this yesterday. They have parts of their video game that they market their big video game for their sport,
Mm-hmm.
where they're it's like certain game modes on there, dedicated to the Negro leagues, like a big chunk of that is dedicated to the Negro league. So they're making a concerted effort to get the message out. I would say this, to get the message out that, hey, we acknowledge the Negro leagues and their history. We want to honor it in whatever kind of way they see fit. And I think this is another step in that direction, because how you not when we're talking about this baseball records, how you not acknowledge the accomplishments of those players
Who are playing the exact same game, the exact same rules. It's not like it was like they were playing with softballs. It's none of that. So look, they can thank DEI that they came up with.
Yeah. That's a good question, though, Gator Girl. Yeah, I can see your devil's advocate saying it diminishes, but I think we're at the stage now where you have to acknowledge what it is, and to say that, oh yeah, they did that in the Negro leagues when they're playing the exact same game, when the only reason they was playing in the Negro leagues because there wasn't no integration in baseball at the time. So yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm curious to see what the next steps are going to be, because I think this is an ongoing effort from Major League Baseball to drum up interest from the Black community. And that's unintentional, but trust me, it was somebody in a marketing room that said, you know what, Black people are going to love this. They're gonna love this. It's a feel good moment for the Black sports fan to know that the Negro League is finally being acknowledged. And then when you're talking about knocking off some of the names and pushing down some of the names on these lists that we're talking about, those that are mad, you're just gonna have to be mad. But that doesn't take away from what players like Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige did, and their ilk. Doesn't take away from what they did. You just gotta accept it for what it is.
Right. Tell them they still have apple pie. We're not gonna change it to sweet potato. Like, we got it.
Yeah, but like I said, they are they are, like I said, baseball and golf, like they ain't, trust me, you gotta worry about brothers coming to take over hockey.
But they out there playing, man. It's a brutal sport. I love it.
Yeah, they're when it comes to baseball, the fact that Ty Cobb is sat there, with I don't know if you've heard the stories about Ty Cobb and how he was as a person, even on the field, and to have him pushed down and knocked off that perch. Oh man, they 38 out about it. They 38.
Yeah, because they're going to change the name of some of those awards. Ain't it a Ty Cobb Award?
Yep, for the batting. But
okay, then
we'll see if they change. We'll see if they change that. Baseball. They're gonna be like, hey, we only giving you so much now. We only giving
all we need is a pinky toe. That's all we need is a pinky toe in the door. That's all we need. Oh, this is so amazing. This is so amazing. It's like no matter how they try to, erase and quiet our stories, you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge our contribution to this country.
Yeah.
You have to.
I like I said, I love it. This is gonna get me to watch more baseball games. No. but I love it that that
Tisk
finally.
tisk analyst.
No, I mean, hey, listen, just because you change the record books, don't make the game that much more interesting. But I do, I do, I do
Tisk
like seeing,
tisk.
yeah, I do like seeing Josh Gibson name on top of some of them books. I ain't gonna lie to you, but am I gonna be tuning in for a goddamn Padres Mets game? Probably not.
Well, as long as you watch the World Series, that's all it, because I mean, again, like you said, there's so much overlap with all of these seasons and what have you. You can only do what you can do, but
Baseball.
include them into, your schedule.
I mean, listen, I keep up when they get to the playoffs, then I'm kind of like a little bit more tuned in. But it's for them when they get to the playoffs, it's around the start of the season for the NFL. I mean, am I choosing baseball game or I'm watching them boys? I'm watching them boys 10 times out of 10 and twice on Sunday. What are we doing?
I
Like
know.
it's
I
it's,
know.
it's a bad time. Hey, listen, it's a bad time of year. Oh, it might be a big game 5, but it's on Sunday. Oh well. Oh well.
Absolutely.
Oh
I'm
well.
just I'm just thankful that now, when you start talking about not you, but us as people in the United States, when you start talking about these things, you can't skip over who number one is anymore, especially now that that person is not who you thought it was. So this changes, and it rights a serious wrong, for these people who love the sport just as much as anybody else, did their due diligence and made something out of nothing.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm with Gator Girl. Listen, I love it. I love it. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge you can't skip over and say, well, it's no way that we can confirm. Like Major League Baseball went out their way. Like I said, it's been a 4-year process to verify the stats that they're adding to the record books. I love it. And I think the record books are going to change once they get an even more comprehensive collection of all of, like I said, they only got 75%. Only got 75%. That's a whole 25%. And we're talking about that the period that they're took the stats from was from 1920 to 1948. That 25%, that's a lot more numbers to
Right.
be.
And a whole lot can happen. So a lot of people are going to be unseated.
Yeah, I love it.
And could you imagine? I think it was Gator Girl who said, or maybe I read it when I did a Google search on Hank Aaron's wife. It was one of those athletes' wife who's like still living. She's like 102. For some reason, I thought it was Hank Aaron, but it's not her. But when it was saying that some of these people who are like number one might not even be in the top 10 or 20 by the time they finish reconciling these records. I mean, that
Exactly.
is amazing. That is amazing.
And they're gonna be listen. They're gonna get
Sick.
sicker. They're gonna get sicker. Listen. Once they get that other 25%, I mean, like I said, you're talking about like a 30-year period of records that they still haven't really accounted for, and some of them records, man. Josh,
Listen, especially when you have people like my grandchildren who be coming through say, no, these books are not right. The records are this, that, and third, and you're enlightening everybody else around you. Again, it's one of the reasons why I'm thankful for the parents and the, aunts and uncles that I had, because again, they were products of HBCUs and they made sure that we always knew what Black people were doing in all of these areas, so that we were just a little bit more well-rounded and a lot more prideful about the way that we carried ourselves, because we are descendants of all of this greatness.
yeah, very much so, and that is it is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. Now, like I said, I want to see, does this translate to increased Black interest in baseball? Speaking for me, no.
No.
But it's like I said, we're sitting here talking about it. It's drawn attention. It's been talked about all over the sports talk shows. And some people are cool with it, but you got some that feel a kind of way about it, and they're going to feel a kind of way about it as we move forward with this. But I give a small round of applause for Major League Baseball, because you know how they are with honoring their history. more so than any other sports. Like Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's neither here nor there.
Absolutely. But one more thing, if I could just add to this, you're saying it may not necessarily pique your interest or raise your interest in watching more baseball, but the simple fact that you had one more show talking about this than you did last year is an increase. So I'll take it. Yeah.
That's that glass half full.
Yes, because if they change it again, it means you got to have another show on it. So again, there's hope. So although it may not translate into you watching more games, you're gonna talk about it just a little bit more.
Yeah, Gator Girl. I agree with that when we're talking about managers and coaches, even team records. It's just gonna be some rewriting going on, and like I said, baseball is got they're those Sun Dodger fans, they're just gonna have to cope with it because history is history, facts is facts. As somebody in our space likes to say, men lie, women lie.
Oh my God.
But numbers don't.
Well, let me counter that with someone from another sector that we seem to be merging into. If y'all know who Treasure Lane is or Spill It Boy is, his theme song is just clean it up. They gotta clean it up. And that show opens with this big old fat white lady, I think from American Dad, running down the steps to go clean it up. So yeah, keep cleaning and dusting off those records, and you'll see. Because another beautiful thing about this, and as I said, there's so many teachable moments, is the fact that we are using the same tools that you all use as a way to oppress us, which is that written word and stuff that's written down and chronicled, to turn around and whoop your ass with it. Because now you got to respect these records because these are your rules.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. And I was you mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to kind of talk about. Do you think the Hall of Fame is going to really do some renovations?
They're gonna have to.
I don't that one I don't know about. And the reason why I say that because the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame kind of looks at themselves a little bit separate from Major League Baseball as a whole. Like they're I don't even know if they're going to do, like, we're talking about wholesale changes to where players are placed, or where plaques are saying. Like, I don't know if we're going to get that.
You're gonna have to.
I don't know. Yeah, they may look at it like, we acknowledge it, but the Hall of Fame is the Hall of Fame. It's just our sacred place,
But the stats have to align, and even if that means that you move the jersey from one side of the museum to the other, it's still a change.
I'm curious to see how that plays out with Cooperstown. I will say that I'm curious to see how much remodeling, because we're talking about, when we're Baseball Hall of Fame is about records and what players have done to obtain those records. When you're talking about, hey, Ty Cobb, your place in the museum is not in the center part of this display here. We're gonna have to move you 5 or 6 seats down. You're not gonna get the big light in the middle. You're just gonna be on the wall.
Exactly. Not only that, guess what? We got to give these black folks 2 spaces, because we're going to keep them over there with the Negro League stats, but then we got to put them over here with the rest of the stats. So how special are we? I love it.
Yeah. I'm like I said, we'll do it. Piquing my interest.
See?
I'm gonna do a follow-up at sometime in the future. Ain't gonna be near. I ain't gonna lie to you. But it'll be sometime in the future, and I'm gonna kind of do some research and see how is Cooperstown going to respond to Major League Baseball, including the Negro Leagues, into the records, their rightful place in the records. I'm curious to see how they handle that, because this is kind of new when we're talking about taking stats from the Negro Leagues, because I think every other league has never had this problem. So.
I love it.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So, ma'am,
we ready for the benediction? All hearts and minds are together.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So any last words? Because I got to get into the zone. Because
Oh, for sure. That's why I said only 5 minutes. No, they just got to clean it up. That's my final sentiment.
very much appreciated. Thanks for coming to the show, ma'am.
Always a pleasure.
All right, let me throw this up as I give my final words of wisdom to the audience. Hey, I hope everybody has a good weekend. I will be, and Miss Murphy, I saw this comment you left in your last show. And there's certain people that can kind of spark stuff within me on a creative side. You mentioned my first Bill show. I need to find that and revisit it. I want to kind of get back to doing some of that on occasion, because it's very much needed to have a space where we can be grown, even for just a live be grown folks hanging out and talking about grown folks stuff. So I said I did peep that as I kind of close out the show, but I wanted to acknowledge I did see that. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I got to go on the vote for a lot of this stuff, but I'm gonna see if I can find it, and then there might be something I revisit in the other space, because I like to diversify my portfolio. But anyway, end you off with the phrase, "It pays over here." Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. Where's my outro? And I'm out.